Today, we have an amazing interview lined up with music business veteran Vincent Castellucci. For those who don't know, Vincent has been a staple in the music industry for many, many years. To interview someone with his knowledge is truly a pleasure. Music publishers, songwriters, artists, and bands alike can benefit from his lifelong experience in the business. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details about how Vincent got into the music business. I'll let him answer that for himself. But suffice it to say, he worked for musical giants like Warner Music Publishing. At the Harry Fox Agency, he was the head of the licensing division in the sync department. So his advice is something you'll want to listen to. So let's get started. Vincent, again, welcome. So great to have you with us today. What I want to start with is, can you tell me a little bit about your background? How did you get started? Where did you work? And anything else you think would be interesting to know about you?
My grandfather was a music teacher on violin and mandolin, and he started me off when I was about 3.5 years old on mandolin and fiddle and violin. And my father was he debuted in Carnegie Hall at 15. And my other uncle is Nick Casti. He played with the big bands from Ellington on down, all through the U.S. and Europe. So there's a lot of musicians in the family. I studied civil engineering and music at University of Denver, and then I got a scholarship and went to Syracuse Conservatory. I got an ASCAP scholarship for songwriting, and at that time I was writing music, so it was very interesting. I went through the university. When I graduated, I went to look for work on the road, being a utility musician. So I was a sideman for many prominent artists and bands, mostly in the southern rock and country realm. And I became quite good at it. And then I was in Nashville and came up to New York on a whim and met my future wife and got off the road and started work at Chappell Music Publishing, and then rose up through the ranks quickly for Chappell, and I went back out on the road, became a manager for prominent groups like the Persuasions and a couple of rock bands, and then Harry Fox Agency called and said we could use your help restructuring the synchronization licensing department, and that's exactly what I did. And then we developed better and better methods for licensing, more amicable to the needs of record labels and users, a softer approach. Worked with and grew the publishers from 10,000 to 50,000, and from 30 million to 556 million a year when I left. So I restructured the whole licensing division. And then I left and I went into private in about 2000, 2001, and worked with a lot of prominent artists, for whether it was for B.B. King or it was Tio Macero, who was Miles Davis's producer. I did a lot of licensing deals, worked with some streaming companies and got them up to bat, got them master licenses and PRO licenses from around the world. Edited, right before that, while I was at Harry Fox, edited about 17 music industry books on licensing and publishing and copyright, and went to many conventions and seminars, and I was a speaker at many of them. And primarily for the sync department, I redid all the licenses, so they're a little bit softer and easier to understand. Developed a couple of licenses like the multimedia rights license, the Merle license, which was the predecessor for digital music companies, and just been studying and working and developing and keeping my contacts.
That's an amazing background, and thanks for being so detailed. With such a wealth of experience and knowledge that you have, the first thing I would want to ask is, what advice do you have for those that are new to this business? I'm sure you're happy to get anyone a leg up to succeed in this business.
I'm not adverse to helping anybody get a leg up in this industry at all. I wish everybody the best success possible, because the industry is just becoming exceedingly more difficult and crowded. From the time I was at Harry Fox to now, sync rates have been steadily declining. Music supervisors have found different ways to obtain licenses, mostly from independent artists that own the masters and the publishing. They found that trying to get the master recording rights from the record companies was too problematic and way too expensive. And many advertising companies just went back in the studio and recorded the song that they liked and just merely paid the publishing rights, for the ad. But now that the rates are decreasing, I mean, a movie use would be 10 to 15, 25,000. Now it's a 2, 3, 4, 5,000 all in, world in perpetuity. the numbers have just gotten smaller, and there's a lot more music to select from. If I were a publisher and I had evergreens and I had secondary music that really needed exposure, I would make alliances with not only producers around the world and all the music supervisors, as many as I can, and go to a lot of the meetings that music supervisors attend. But I would basically, I would, not anybody else, I would give low or no cost use of my songs just to get traction and collect the performance on that through the performance rights societies for whatever use it is. So I got traction with the music supervisor. If I already had traction with music supervisors, I would work with them on any deal that they would like to get exposure for those songs. Once you get exposure on that song, then it's that much easier to get the public to listen and accept that song on a more favorable level. You'd have more interest in the song. But to start off the bat and say, for this unknown song, I want 5 or 10, how much money it is, kind of defeats the purpose. I mean, you do have sync services, and you've got taxi, and you've got other call to arms services that handle synchronization. But like I said, the numbers have gone down for remuneration for the royalty rates, and the influx of available music is extremely high. The other thing is that, believe it or not, music supervisors love CDs. I wouldn't send it unannounced, but I would work with music supervisors and productions and writers that work directly for, whether it's Days of Your Life or it's for Lionsgate Films or the various ad agencies, and work it that way. It is a hard market. It's getting harder. So I would make alliances directly with those folks that are in charge for sync usages. The other thing I would do, and I would be very, very creative in having my songs available, whether they're on YouTube or selected songs, or they're on other social media sites, to raise the interest of it. I would pick a few songs and make a happening, or I would try to get as much media attention or exposure or social networking as I can to those songs that I deemed had the largest potential. I would look at the song to make sure it was 3 or 4 dimensional song. That means that if it had legs, and you can actually visualize the song being utilized in a scene rather than a 1 or 2 dimensional song, or a song that has unique sounds, or that would be of interest, that the song had unique qualities in it that no other song had. I mean, if I play a GCD chord all day long and write lyrics behind it, there's really nothing tantalizing about it. I need something that's compelling, some new sounds, some new ways to have the uniqueness of that sound in 4 dimensions come forward.
Absolutely, I agree. Music with multiple dimensions does stand out. Now, what are some ways to start building a relationship with a music supervisor? You mentioned one way would be to get traction by giving away your music for free. Is that right?
It would be free with certain conditions, certain stipulations. Yeah, I mean, if I was to use it for a TV show, I would give it to them. But if it goes to reruns or reprises or DVD, for instance, which really is, the market's going down on that, but any other medium for that song, then we can, discuss a sync fee later on. Mm-hmm. But I'd work with them. I would study who the sync folks are. The Hollywood Reporter guide to music supervisors has a book out, or had a book out. You can search music supervisors or various shows. It's a lot of homework. I guess the bottom line of all of this is study and study and study. Know your target and make connections. You can make connections from LinkedIn. You can make connections by going to meetings and seminars and shows where music supervisors are. Not those specific for just independent songwriters that nobody knows of, because there's some of those as well. But something on a more professional level. Sync Exchange, a Mark Freezer, I would contact some folks like that, and I'd also get on a will call list from various production houses that if they need a song that sounds like or tastes like XYZ, you'd be able to send it to them directly rather than going through brokerages like Taxi and other services like that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Anytime you can work directly with someone, that's definitely the way to go. Can you give us a step-by-step example on how to get started?
I would get a 5 or 6 or an EP of my best songs that had 3 and 4 dimensions. That means when I listen to it, I can actually visualize something, all right? Something that has a unique flavor or a unique sound to it, something that's a little bit different. I would contact the music supervisors, make sure it's not an unsolicited call to them, and ask the permission to send them a CD. Most music supervisors still accept CDs. Any of them really go up on the internet to any one music site to listen to music that's there. There's also music sync brokerages, people, independent people, that actually, if they take you on, will work to market your song. But you don't pay them. You work on a commission basis. That means if they secure a song for a sync, they get a percentage of it. But you work a deal with that. Maybe they can get a larger percentage than the other clients that they have on your songs. But once you get traction, you can springboard off of that. Also, speed is a definite requirement here. If they need something like an hour ago, don't wait till tomorrow. You know, have your music available. If they want it on SoundCloud, put it on SoundCloud. If they want a CD, fine. If they send it overnight, if whatever they want, that's what I would work with. But the supervisors are the first call from the production houses that are tasked with the responsibility to go out and find the best music that matches the scene. You know, it doesn't hurt to know film directors, or another way to do it is there are a lot of film students coming out of the film colleges that some of them are just going to make a real good career out of it. Make alliances with them at an early stage. Speak to some of the teachers at the film schools. You know, make your music available for the film schools to use for indie or class films. Once those independent films are done, believe it or not, these students actually put them up on YouTube or other sites, and you get credit. You know, and you can build up your credits that way.
Yeah, that's a great way to build up your credits, because a lot of people don't think about the fact that they can start working with a first-time director or people that are still rising up in the industry. So I think that's a great point. Now, in this approach you just mentioned, does this require you to have a huge catalog of songs, or does this just work even with a few songs?
In any catalog, you're going to have really good songs, and you're going to have most of them that are just, whatever. I would select the 5, 6, 7, no more than 8 or whatever, and I would make a compilation CD and send it out to music supervisors after I've contacted them and got their permission to send it to them.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of successful music publishers that have done this, but also some that couldn't get traction, which leads me to my next question, which is, why? What are some of the biggest mistakes that people make?
One of the biggest mistakes, well, not one, but there's a lot of them, not knowing your target. I mean, if I had a certain music supervisor and they're doing indie rock, and that's what their specialty is, I wouldn't send them a hip-hop, or I wouldn't send them a bluegrass song. So most music supervisors zero in on a couple of genres, 1, 2, or 3 genres that they're known for. And I would, like I said, I would study the supervisor. I would contact them. I would ask them what they're looking for, if I can send them an EP or a sampler of my songs in full. And on that sampler, I would have all my contact information, how they can get a hold of me.
And with that approach, in your opinion, how long would it take to get a song placement?
It depends. I mean, if it was Billy Joel right now and he was starting just a brand new catalog, people know him and he would get a placement immediately. If it was my son, for instance, who's just starting out, it may take months, if not years, to get a place. And in that case, I would align myself and try to meet other composers that have music that has been placed, or they're actively working on a show or actively working with a music soup or a production house. And I would ask them if I could write with them or be a co-writer with them, mainly in the New York or L.A. area. Nashville is kind of soft. Even though there's a lot of great songwriters there, it's very hard to be a co-writer for music with state writers in Nashville. I know that from from maybe it may have changed over the years, but I've known that from personal experience. Study. Know your target. Know what they want. Contact them and ask them if you could submit a CD. Believe it or not, most of them take CDs.
Yeah, CDs is a bit of a surprise for some, but it's still popular and should definitely not be missing as another approach to get music in the right hands. Now, what style of music or genres have done pretty well in terms of licensing, and why?
Well, I mean, the genre that seems to be most prevalent right now is indie rock for a lot of reasons. Because they're out in the forefront, they're easy to find. The group usually is the artist and the composer at the same time, and they're easy to contact and negotiate a deal with immediately.
Yeah, that certainly does make it easier to license music. Do you have any thoughts on instrumentals versus full songs?
Well, 9 out of 10 times the music soups for film or TV want instrumentals, not with vocals. But motion picture use vocals more than the TV folks. So I would have an A-B side. An A side without the vocals, just the instrumentals. And that song has to be something special that's catchy, that's a different form of writing or different sonic sounds to it, where it would tantalize the ear. And then on the B side, it's the song with vocals.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. Thanks for clarifying that. Now, we've spoken about making money via licensing music on film and TV. What are some other ways that publishers should think about when trying to make money from their music?
Obviously, games, the digital internet jukebox companies, or other companies that supply music to hotels, restaurants, and bars. They charge subscriptions for it. You can get on those. Don't forget also the film schools, the film and TV schools. It's networking, and it's a lot of homework. You have to build it up on a consistent basis. And there are artists and songwriters that do re-records for the production houses, especially advertising houses. And there's studios in New York that specialize in that, for example. So again, networking and know your market and know who's out there and know who's producing what.
Yeah, those are great ideas when trying to find other ways to monetize your music catalog. Here's an interesting question for you. What do you think about partnering with other music publishers? I mean, usually it's very competitive, but in your opinion, are there creative ways to still work together?
Well, I'm in favor for partnering up and making alliances with other publishers and catalogs. I think 2 or 3 heads are better than one. But in my experience, I've seen that publishers like to keep their songs close to their vest and want to promote it and market it themselves rather than working along with other publishing houses in a community or a communal arena, as it were, for fear that if you have 2 or 3 different catalogs, that when you work really hard to push it to a music supervisor, the fear is that Music Soup would select a song from another publisher's catalog that's in your group. But nobody said that you folks couldn't come into some kind of agreement that a communal pool of songs for a communal pool of royalties, that you decide on how you're going to split it up. If somebody picks my song, if somebody picks your song, whatever, we put it into a pool, and at the end of the quarter we split up the money evenly, for instance, to make it more palatable for everybody. But I really believe in communities.
That's really interesting and very creative. Speaking of which, are there creative ways to structure deals with music supervisors?
When we're pitching songs, I throw 2 or 3 or 4 songs in and say, if you use one, you can use the others for a deal. I'd give you a break on all the other songs. Or if you use one for free, then I'll reduce the rate on the other 3 or 4 if you want to use them.
That's definitely a creative way on how you can work with a music supervisor and to get more exposure for your songs. Now, I know you're independent and are no longer with Harry Fox, but it's always interesting to get an outside opinion from someone that has spent time at the company. Do you have any suggestions or ideas for Harry Fox?
Harry Fox only handles United States mechanical licenses. There's no more synchronization licensing with them, and that's they dispelled with that a few years after I had left at HFA. But if I were them, I would entertain the idea of going back into the sync realm. I see a future because when somebody wants to cast a net and look for music, they want to find a home that's a huge representation. And HFA's got a very, very large representation of many, many thousands of publishers. I mean, I would do that. I don't know if they're entertaining that or they're thinking about going and doing any sync work or what have you. But they generate a lot of income for publishers at HFA in the sync area. But I really have no other comments. I mean, I enjoyed my work at HFA. I enjoyed the people there. I enjoyed what the milestones that we made. But now that I'm independent, I'm making my own milestones.
I think that's very interesting to hear your insights on that. So, any final words of advice for artists or songwriters?
Study hard, know your target, be respectful, contact them, know your business, and be creative in the sounds that you select and the rhythms that you choose and the voices and the music and the instruments that you select for your recording. Everybody knows what an acoustic guitar, drum, and bass sound like. Find instruments that have unique qualities and add them to it. Beach Boys did it, Zeppelin did it. A lot of groups found those unique instruments and incorporated that into some of their sounds. No longer is virtuosity the primary thing. I mean, no more can you say, I'm Yngwie Malmsteen, I'm the best guitar player, or I'm a Steve Vai, I'm the best guitar player in the world, and by that note, people should use my music. There are a lot of great players, but there's also amateurish guitar players that are very creative, that are very good too in their own right. So it depends on what the sync arena is looking for at the time.
That's definitely great advice. Any final words of advice for music publishers?
There's so much that comes to mind. Primarily, I would select my best songs, make sure I have a really good recording with it, zero in on what my genre is and what genre certain music supervisors are known for, and try to network with them. Try to make communities and make pools of music available. Find independent folks that just do pitching alone, not companies, but just individual agents that handle sync and work with them. Yeah, it's a lot of homework and it's a lot of R&D, but that's the name of the game.
Now, Vincent, I want to thank you again for taking the time to speak to me. It's been a privilege, and I think a lot of people listening today have taken a lot of notes, and I can't thank you enough. By the way, are you open for people to contact you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, if anybody wants my advice or assistance or wants to work with me, feel free to contact me.
This is Music Supervisor Guide, the world's leading real-time tracker of hundreds of active film and TV projects, directory of music buyers, and resource for insider research. Your songs in the next Hollywood blockbuster, in an awesome commercial, on the coolest TV show. With Music Supervisor Guide, you can find hundreds of active film and TV projects and music buyers at major Hollywood film studios, top TV networks, the leading advertising agencies, and the coolest video game publishers. Get access to companies such as Warner Brothers, Disney, Fox, MTV, Pepsi, Electronic Arts, and many more. Music Supervisor Guide is the must-have tool for professional music publishers, record labels, artists and bands, record producers, and composers. It's remarkably easy to use. It'll change the way you place music in 3 easy steps. Step 1, log into Music Supervisor Guide. Step 2, browse active film and TV projects and get the music buyer's direct contact information, including a mailing address, a direct phone number, and an email address. Step 3, pitch your music directly. Everything you need to place your music.